Abigail is a film that came out this year, 2024. It's a film that I missed in theater because it didn't actually go to my local theater. So I actually had to wait a little bit for it to show up on digital. I've heard some things before going in to see this movie where people have absolutely loved it, and unfortunately, along with the rest of the world, I also heard the major spoiler about the film. It's not really a major spoiler, as it's one of the main things that they focus on in the actual official trailer, but they shouldn't have. And we'll get into that in a second, but what did I think about Abigail? Well, let's get cracking. Abigail ultimately follows around a group of criminals that are tasked with not only kidnapping a little girl, but making sure all goes smoothly for the next 24 hours as they watch her in order for a ransom to make them all a little bit richer, because this little girl's father is very famous. But little by little, they start to realize that this girl and the situation is not quite what it seems. In fact, there's something going on with this girl that should be feared. So before I get too deep into this review, I did want to give a little bit of a spoiler warning, because I'm going to be talking about the thing that's spoiled in the trailer. So if you haven't seen the trailer and you don't actually know what this film is about and you're planning to see it, stop the review, go watch the film first, because you're actually lucky to be one of the few that don't know what it's about. So I don't want to be the person that gives that away, so go ahead, check it out, and then come back, you know? Having that said, the main spoiler, or twist I should say, of this film is that this girl is a vampire. Woo! It's a vampire movie. The reason why the trailers shouldn't have given that away in the first place is because it was already legitimately a good foundation for a plot about a kidnapping. There's a lot of great visuals going in as far as cinematography. There was a good setup for the actual setting of the film, which all takes place in a locked mansion of sorts. The film also did a pretty good job introducing you to all of these characters and eliciting this mysterious atmosphere that surrounds the little girl. And little by little, you're starting to realize that there's more than meets the eye with this girl. She's a transformer. Just kidding. And all of that alone makes for a great hook. It makes for a great trailer. You don't have to give away the fact that she's a vampire in the first place, because you don't really find that out until about halfway into the film, and then all hell breaks loose. But there is also reason to, I guess, spoil it in this review as well, is because one thing that it's doing, or I think that it's doing, is trying to get its foot in the door once again with the whole Universal monster movie universe thing that they keep trying to reboot or redo. Like The Invisible Man was another one. I'm not sure if that's the case, but there's a lot of evidence that points to the fact that it was. And I won't go too deep into why I think that that's the case. If I do that, I'll just end up spoiling everything even more so. There's more to learn about this film than just that twist. There's more going on here that you don't quite understand until the very end of the film. However, in terms of the plot itself, I can't really complain about anything here. This is a very straightforward, very simple plot that's all about action, gore, people running for their lives, people defending themselves, because when you got a locked mansion, you can no longer have the flight or fight response, right? Flight's out the window, so all that's left is to fight, which is pretty fun in general. It's not a deep or meaningful story. There's not a ton of sustenance for these characters specifically. They're pretty flat characters, I would say, at the end of the day, though they are humorous at times. The film has a unique sense of humor. It has a lot of dark humor going on in the film that works pretty well for the atmosphere of the film. The little girl that played Abigail did a fantastic job. I don't think I've really seen her in anything else. Yeah, I haven't seen her in anything. Some people have, and they swear by her talent, and I wouldn't be surprised. She does have a lot of talent as a horror actress. I don't know how she did as Matilda in the most recent Matilda musical that they had over on Netflix, because apparently that's who she played, was Matilda. But she did pretty good, especially when it came down to blending scenes of things like delicate ballet and violent vampire antics. It was kind of a fun little balance between the two. In general, it's a popcorn flick. If you're a fan of horror, I think you'll get a kick out of it. If you're a fan of vampire films, I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's nothing revolutionary. It's not going to change the world, I don't think. I'd be surprised if it won any kind of awards. Maybe in makeup or practical effects for, the gore stuff, but even that's a stretch. I'll just kind of leave it at this and have you decide for yourself. The real reason you watch this film is for the gimmick of this little girl, this little ballet dancing girl, to be a vampire and see her just tear everybody apart. That's the real reason that you're watching the film, and for that, the movie definitely doesn't disappoint. If you're looking for something a little bit deeper or a little bit more meaningful in terms of character development or chemistry, charisma between characters, you're not going to really find that here. That's not really what this movie is about. That's not what this movie was really trying to do. I'm going to give this a letter grade of B+, which is pretty much my typical grade that I give movies that I absolutely enjoy watching. They aren't, immaculate films that I would recommend to a million different people to watch. You gotta watch this movie. No, not at all. If you're a fan of horror, you'll probably enjoy it. If you're not a fan of horror, if you're a fan of action, you might enjoy it, but not quite as much as people that like horror or vampire stories. And you gotta have a little bit of a sense of humor when it comes down to dark humor as well. Those are the three things that you gotta keep in mind. Be a fan of horror, be a fan of vampire stories, and be a fan of dark humor, and this movie will be everything for you. What did you guys think about this movie? Were you a fan of this film? Were you not? Why or why not? Let me know. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. But until then, peace out.